going on, guys? I'm letting Telegram know. Hey, one of you's already here. Look at that. I like instantaneously started. You were here. I'm letting Telegram know. Drop your comment. Drop your comment. Drop your comments, guys. Drop your comments. Drop your comments, guys. I'm letting Telegram know. Drop your comments, guys. Drop your comments and give the video a like. Give it a like so it boosts. And drop your comments. I'm just letting Instagram know. That's what I'm doing. Letting this story know. Drop your comments and drop a like, please, so it boosts. What's up, Champion? What's up, Werner? What's up, Aditya? Aditya, give the live stream a like. Aditya. Sama, give the live stream a like. USMLE live, 30-min jam sesh. Drop your comments, guys. All right, let's do this. Let's do this. Sama, good to see you again. Your Qbanks would boost my score from 40% to passing score. As we talked about, your passing score has got to be 65% for step one, right? 68+% I want on 3 NBMEs for you to have that buffer. That's what we want to see. You should be doing my QBank, but also the PDFs and the Anki and the YouTube playlist, which the YouTube playlists are still, that's an entire QBank. We have like 1460, something like that, in terms of our number of questions there. You should do all of that. Guava. Your name is Ayush, your first year med student. Can you start preparation? How can you start preparation for USMLE step one? Hyper generic. You're going to do a QBank first thing, and you're going to choose a QBank. And if people are apprehensive to just choose our QBank straight up, then my recommendation is to do our QBank alongside one of the Qbanks that's been around for a while, and then you can see for yourself. Don't take my word for it. You can see for yourself. You'd be like, I have X Qbank that has been around for a while, and now I started doing Mehlman's Qbank. Holy shit, Mehlman's Qbank's actually better. Okay, don't take my word for it. Do both at the same time. Kofi, what's going on? What's going on, Kofi? Mustafa, how much should I target in QBank while solving it? In terms of a percentage, I'm assuming you're asking. You don't have to worry about your percentage in QBank. Don't worry about your percentage. Just do QBank for learning purposes. If you're scoring in the 60s, like obviously that's good in general, but I wouldn't fixate on your percentages. And it doesn't change your management, because whether you're getting 40s or whether you're getting 70s, you still have to finish the QBank anyway. And then after, you're gonna use the NBMEs to gauge where you're at. Drop your questions, guys. Give the video a like. Mogul, what's going on? Aditya, is UWorld 50% fine to go for USMLE step one? No, 50% means you're not really like passing it. But either way, as I said, I wouldn't use QBank as a metric, the percentage for whether you're ready or not. You're going to do the NBMEs. Those are going to tell you whether you're ready or not. Champion, you say, I feel doing questions for QBank is better. You feel like quitting. Is it normal? You're not supposed to feel motivated all the time. That is normal. Like, you're going to feel like you don't want to do questions oftentimes. But as I've articulated, you have to be consistent regardless of how you feel. And I've analogized it to the gym, where you're not supposed to want to go to the gym all the time. It's just you have to. Okay? And people who do go to the gym all the time, that becomes a want, and it translates over into other areas of your life where you have discipline and you do things outside of the gym, regardless of how you feel. So I don't want to make a YouTube clip sometimes, oftentimes. I don't want to make stupid IG posts sometimes, but I do anyway, regardless of how I feel. But it's not about me. You're asking about you for QBank. You need consistency regardless of how you feel. That's how it works. You could develop like a scatter plot with people who are like overweight and not in shape, and you would see a relationship with how they don't do questions when they're supposed to. And people who are more fit, you would see that they do questions even when they don't want to. It's a direct relationship, your level of discipline and your consistency. Rizwan. Hello, Mike. What's up? I want to ask, what should be the game plan for NBME Step 2? Done with your PDFs, your Anki. Should I use your QBank in the last 1 month? See, that's the thing. If you're in the final month, you should be focusing on the NBME exams. 6 through 15, do 6 through 8 offline, free 120, and then 9 through 15. And CMS forms. That should be like your final month. That tells you I'm not full of shit, right? Right? Because I could say, yeah, do my QBank in the final month. There's like, I wouldn't recommend in general, like, you know, you would never want to do a QBank like in the final couple weeks. It's not to say you couldn't blast my fucking QBank like 120 a day for 2 weeks, and then the final 2 weeks, you know, you do the NBMEs or something. It's not that you couldn't do that, but it's in my sentiment that you should be doing NBMEs and CMS forms in the final month in general. Werner Fernandez. Is it worth going through 1 through 20 NBME on the side, or should we just use them as an assessment tool? You don't have to do 1 through 19. And by the way, there's some that don't exist. 8, 9, 10 don't exist. And I think 14 doesn't exist. They just don't exist. But you don't have to do those. I think 20 through 31 is sufficient. I think 20 to 31 is sufficient. And then you do our QBank. Well, the other way around. You do QBank and then you do 20 to 31. That's sufficient. And of course, free 120. So you'll do 20 through 24, then free 120, then 25 through 31. Andres Chinchilla. How much time should I wait between step 2 and step 3? And how much time should step 3 prep take? It's a very good question, okay? And it depends on if you're post-grad or on rotation, stuff like that. There's a significant benefit to doing step 3 basically immediately after step 2. And that's because you don't have to repeat study a lot of the resources. In other words, when I have people do step 3 prep, I have them do all of the CMS forms again. For step 2 that you do, I have them do those for step 3. And I have you do 6 through 15 again. All those NBMEs for step 2, yes, I have you do those for step 3. So if you're gonna say, I passed step 2, I'm going to residency, fuck step 3, I'm not taking that for like 2 years. Well, just know that like 18 months, 2 years from now, you're gonna have to redo all those CMS forms and all those 2CK NBMEs. So if you're willing to take step 3 immediately after step 2, then you can bypass essentially. You say, well, I'm fresh on the CMS forms. So you can knock out the 1,700 questions in step3.mehlmanmedical.com or step 3 QBank, bust them out while you're doing CCS cases every evening from ccscases.com. And then you don't have to do the CMS forms again or the 2CK NBMEs again. You don't have to because you just did those. You're fresh. So you shave like a month and a half off if you're willing to take step 3 immediately after step 2. Right? And then you go into step 3 and that's it. You could throw the English exam, the OET or whatever that is in there. That some of you guys have to take. Probably many of you guys have to take. TJ the dog got real issues with, and step 3 prep should take like 2 months. TJ the dog got real issues with radiology images, how to deal. That's the thing about radiology is we have a lot of radiology in our Qbanks. Okay, our step 2, step 3 actual QBanks. I've just stated the idea of should we make like because I told you guys, it depends on whether you've been here in the prior live streams. I've said how we're working on mini shelf banks right now for like peds, obs, gyns, surge, IM, FM, neuropsych, right? We're going to release those within 3 months, 1,000+ questions each. And I've just stated the idea of making like a radiology, like wouldn't some of you guys like that? But what goes through my mind also is the yieldness for the USMLE. Because I'm not putting out content for you to just like entertain your own like medical education, where it's like, cool, I'm looking at CT scans and I feel really good about CTs and MRIs now. But like, how much of that actually applies like raw to USMLE? Like, not really. Like, there's a niche for it. Yes, we don't disregard it. But I think like doing radiology just sporadically, like within our QBank, is kind of fine. Like, I don't think you have to be like a radiologist where you do like 1,000+ question QBank or something. Like, I don't think you have to do that. And that's that's a reason why we wouldn't necessarily do like a radiology QBank. It's because it wouldn't really apply to USMLE, I don't think. Fools, you say you just bought my QBank and you're beginning second year. If you do 40 questions a day and run out of QBank, should you go to UWorld? I know you discourage redoing Qbanks. I discourage. Well, there's an asterisk associated with that, which is I discourage recommending any like going through UWorld and Boss twice, because they were mediocre to begin with. They're superfluous to begin with. Our Qbank's different. I mean, you could go through it again. In general, I'm of the sentiment that if you go through it once effectively, you shouldn't have to go through it a second time. What you could do, fools, is after you finish our QBank, if you want to go through UWorld, do it. But then that'll actually allow you to have the juxtaposition will allow you to compare the two. And you say, fuck, Mehlman's is actually better than UWorld. Fuck. So that juxtaposition can actually be beneficial. Right? So do UWorld after our QBank, and then you can have that juxtaposition and see the difference. You'll be like, fuck, like this isn't as good as Mehlman's was. Ahmed, what's up, Mike? Emmanuel, Pierre, what's going on? What's up, Emmanuel? Omar, what's going on? Sama. I'm taking step 1, but your vids are a mix of step 1 and step 2, so you recommend I listen to them all? Yeah, just listen to them. Because there's overlap. It's a Venn diagram. Like, there's a lot of information that if you just learn from the clips, I'm aware when I make these clips that there's those of you studying for like steps 1, 2, 3, and that like I kind of give you information across like all of them. It's very rare that I have like a hyper clinical only clip. You know what I mean? Like, even if it's all next best step in management, if I make like a hepatobiliary question or something, it's like very technical. It's very rare that I do those clips, but I still talk about like all the high yield, like step 1 stuff. Dr. Roy, what's going on? Pop Teens, what's up? Thanks, Pop Teens. Miguel, what's your question? You did 25. Mustafa. Guava. Your name is Ayush. Your first year med. Oh, I think I already read you. You're like a chat bombing. You're like quadruple question mark. How do I start preparation for step 1? Can I read first aid line by line? Cup resource you mentioned. Who gave you advice? That's my question. Like, whom were you speaking with that gave you that advice to do those resources that you mentioned? Right? Like, which upperclassmen did you talk to? Or like, things shift, game changes. This isn't like 2006. So we've got free PDFs that far eclipse first aid in terms of their yieldness and in terms of the time that you'll save studying for the exam. If you want to spend double the time studying, read first aid. I'm not bashing FA. We have a pass-fail exam now. It's not numerical. Like, we're not in that era anymore. So you have to read a lot of extra information to hone in on the details that matter with first aid. It's not a bad book. It's just superfluous. Like, would you read Robbins? The answer is no. Why? Because you would have to read like 20 pages for like one thing that shows up. You can understand that that's like an extreme amount of like superfluous information just to learn what's on the exam. Exactly. So that translates over into like FA versus our PDFs. Like, FA is not as bad, but our PDFs are more concise. Fahad, you're a final year med student in the UK. Is it realistic to do step 1 in 6 months, starting from 0 while studying for finals? Starting from 0. Well, if we want, in theory, we could have you'd need to do a QBank, but in theory, we could have you do like NBME 20 to see where you're at. And if you literally score like in the 30s, 6 months is fine. 6 months is fine. It's a lot of time to study for step 1. We would have you do our QBank, do our step 1 QBank, do the Mehlman PDFs, do the Mehlman YouTube questions, do the QBank that we have on the YouTube, right? Do all that in 6 months, absolutely. You don't need 2 years to study for med school anymore. 2 years of nonsense. Can you imagine going to med school? The preclinical years are 2 years, right? You don't need that. You could take someone off the street with an undergrad degree and then just run them through like our resources, and within like 5 months they could pass the licensing exam. You could pass all the licensing exams in like a year, just studying the right stuff. You don't need 4 years of med school. I mean, obviously patient interaction, all that stuff, yes, we get it. But I'm saying like the theoretical knowledge, like you could pass the licensing exams within a year, all of them. That's cool. Chat moved on me. Just want to stay in order on like OCD. Nishath, Parveen. NBME 21, you got a 50%. On 25, you got a 51%. On 26, you got a 69%. On 27, you got a 65%. You're only doing my audio QBank and high-yield PDF your exams in 19 days. Well, your 69 is good. Your 65 is borderline. Your 50 and 51 are terrible. I'd want to know how long ago you sat where you got those 50 and 51s versus the 69 and 65. If your exam's in 19 days, you have to do the other NBMEs, right? I've said you want to do all 20 through 31 and free 120 prior to sitting. So you need to do all those. And we want at least 3 that are 68 plus. Like, if you were to sit another NBME right now and not get above a 65, you need to postpone, because that's a fail. I don't think you should YOLO going in. Even though 65 is a pass, you don't want to pass by one question. Like, you don't want a bad day where you like pass by a singular question. Like, that's not smart. Champion, you say, a girl came to you and shouted at you. She is jealous, uses dumb resources. I kept quiet. She cried, blame me. Okay. Champion, what are you saying? RTC, is the step 2 QBank divided by rotations like family medicine, IM surge? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You got those tags on the bottom. You can do the demos and you can see for yourself. Step2.mehlmanmedical.com, their QBank. You can do the demo and you'll see. Pop teens, you're planning to start step 2 preparation using our QBank. Is there a video resource alongside I can use? Have you heard of Mehlman YouTube that you're watching right now? Like, are you aware of our YouTube? The easiest way to get banned from the Telegram group, by the way, how's that for a tangent, is to like mention cuck video resources that aren't ours. Like, someone will be like, which video resources should I use? And someone mentions some cuck resource, and it's like, of course you're gonna get banned. The group's not a democracy, it's an autocracy. Like, it's a Mehlman group. Mike, you should be open to new perspectives and new resources. It's not a democracy, it's an autocracy. Yogurt. What's up, Dr. Mike? You rock. I love your PDFs. I love your vids. I got my exam in a few weeks. Wish me luck. Good luck. Rana. I'm a fourth year med student. I want to start studying for USMLE. I feel confused because they tell me I can't study for both USMLE and uni exam, ? Yeah, it's annoying, right? Because uni gets in the way of your USMLE prep. Like if you guys didn't have to deal with rotations, classes, whatever, you would literally score higher on the licensing exams. That's true, right? School gets in the way. I agree with that. But you're going to have to do it anyway. That's how it works. That's how med school works, is you're going to have to find the hours anyway to do questions. That's what you have to do. A lot of questions from QBank. Champion, can we have more of these live sessions when America sleeps? I could. I mean, it's 1:26 a.m. here in Japan right now. Like I could. I don't really want to plan when I do the sessions, these live sessions. I don't want it to feel like an obligation. Then it kind of makes it not fun for me. It's not like, you know what I mean? I don't want that. I don't want it to feel like I've got some like thing I got to deal with. No, it's like, if I do it on a whim, so be it. But I know what you're saying. Can I flip the time zone? Maybe. Omar, Mike, I want to set my exam for early 2026. And I want to use your resources only for study purposes, audio QA, PDFs, post questions on IG, then UWorld. Anything else you would recommend? Well, we've got our own QBank. Do step1.mehlmanmedical.com. Do the 2,700 questions in our QBank. And then if you really are like very emotional, you can do UWorld also. I'm not saying like you don't have to do, like if you don't want to forego entirely UWorld, right? You can do both. And then the juxtaposition of our QBank with UWorld, you'll see ours is better. And I think that transition has to occur over a period of time where people say, yeah, I did both and Mehlman's was better, right? 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. And then eventually enough people are like, yeah, it was better. And then, right? DMU asks, do you recommend anything different if I'm a US dental student studying for CBSE? We have a lot of dental students. And the answer is not really. Because CBSE, it's the exact same thing, whether you're dental or doing your craniofacial stuff or whether you're just regular med student. But we get a lot of dental students. We get a lot of dental students. I teach a new dental student maybe like every 3 months. You guys are pretty smart actually, because you got a lot on your plate. You know, you're doing literally a dental degree and medical degree at the same time. That's what you're doing. You can do it. Miguel, you did 25 to 31. You averaged 70. It's very good. This is after completing, interesting. You did my Anki for 3 months during the forms. Your comp was 60. What should you do now? If you scored 70% on 25 through 31, I don't know how you would score 60 on comp, because comp is the NBMEs. So I would want to sit down with you and sort of discuss what happened and the timing of all those exams you're referring to and how you went through them. And then we would just have you do 20 through, if we're really sitting there and we're scratching our heads and we're confused, then we could just have you do 20 through 24, which you need to do anyway. So I'd have you do like NBME 20 and you'd get like a 71. It's like, yes, that's where you're sitting. Ahmad Mustafa, should I do all the review cards in Anki? I mean, I want to do new cards, but I have a lot to review. Just do everything. Yeah, you sort of have to just review. That's how it works. So when you do the review cards in addition to the new cards, you're basically, by the time you finish everything, where the cards don't re-show themselves, you're probably talking like 3 passes of the Anki, right? But that's like fine. That's normal. That's not abnormal. But yes, it's a lot of work. Ahmed Mustafa, Chairubala, you're an intern in India. Do we need to learn basics or can we directly jump to Mehlman PDF and UWorld? Can we understand it? How exactly do you think you're going to learn the basics? Like what cuck resource do you plan on studying from to learn basics? So the thing is, what we want you to do is start immediately on questions. So what you're going to do immediately is you're going to do step1.mehlmanmedical.com. You're going to start our QBank. And while you're doing our QBank, 4 to 8 blocks of 10 questions per day, untimed tutor random, simultaneous to that, you're going to do our free PDFs. And you can do those subject specific if you want. So while you're doing QBank in random mode, in the evenings, let's say for the next 4 or 5 days, you're only looking at the cardio PDF. Then after that, you'll go to the poem PDF, 5 days on that. Yes, I know some of you can read an entire PDF in 3 hours. Okay, other people, it takes like a week to read a PDF. All right, but you can go through PDFs like subject specific. So let's say you do your 80 questions per day, your 8 blocks of 10 untimed tutor random from our QBank. Then in the evening, you do, let's say, 10 pages from cardio PDF, and then you do 10 questions from the cardio playlist on the YouTube here. So you can do subject specific PDF / YouTube playlist simultaneous to doing random mode in QBank. If you're actually like in a class where you've got a quiz in a certain subject in a couple weeks, if you've got a renal quiz in 2 weeks or something, you can do subject specific from our QBank. But in general, I like random mode for students. Sama, you're asking, do you have to start worrying about your NBME scores before finishing the QBank? Absolutely not. You're going to do QBank in its entirety, then you're going to go to the NBMEs. Don't do NBMEs before you finish QBank. Slime and soda after work. How do you come up with that? Hello, Dr. Mike. Your QBank price for a year includes step 2 and step 3 question mark. Are you asking about step 1? Each QBank is separate. Each QBank is separate. If you walk into a Ferrari dealership and you say, I want the blue car, are you going to ask them, does the price that I pay for this car, does that also include my ability to drive the white car and the red car? The answer is no. So when you get a QBank, it's a subscription for that QBank. I know there's another platform that allows you to do like a broad global subscription for all that, but that's because they're shittier. I mean, they want to let in the bottom feeders. We don't want poor people buying our QBank. If you're poor, don't buy our QBank. Because if prices are a big deal for you, we don't want you anywhere near our content. Because it's people who are poor, who are resentful and complain. We don't want them near our QBank. Safe Abu, doctor, thank you for your content. I would ask, are your high PDFs sufficient for first pass studying? The answer is yes. Can I only use QBank and your new PDFs? Yes, you can, but I recommend doing our videos as well, the YouTube questions. Werner, your step 1's booked for October 2nd. Okay. You said in a previous live stream you averaged 58 on the NBMEs. You're going to grind our QBank in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Very good idea. What else do you recommend? Do our PDFs / Anki in the evenings. That's what you can do. And do our questions while you're cooking, cleaning, flossing, brushing your teeth at the gym for the YouTube. Aditya, it's been 8 months. You feel terrible, struggling to pass step 1. Should I keep preparing? It's a long time. I'd want to know what you've been doing for the past 8 months. I mean, I imagine you don't want to be studying that long, but you probably have just been sort of dilatory, not really making progress, you should be going through our QBank. A lot of people are doing our QBank now. That's going to get you to pass. Gina Brehu, I hope you're doing great. I wanted to ask you, what is the best way to know if I'm ready to sit for step 1? You're going to do NBMEs. You're going to get at least 3 NBMEs that are 68 plus. That's how you're going to know. Emmanuel, thank you. Gene, you said you already took NBMEs 20 to 31, free 120. You've given 3 attempts for step 1. Well, you got 1 more attempt. Isn't it like a maximum of 4 attempts now? Something like that. Isn't it? Ayo Tunde. Is there any difference between CBSC and NBMEs? The answer is no. Also, is there a specific way you want us to review the NBMEs? You can just do the NBMEs and review the questions as you need to. You don't need to make Anki. You don't need to do that. You can drag like an NBME question to like Grok or something. You can use like AI tools for that to help you with NBME questions. But I've made prior videos talking about how you can take your incorrects from NBMEs and throw them into like your own Anki cards and review that way. Someone asked that, I think, yesterday in the live stream. I don't specifically prescribe that anymore. You can do it. It's optional. It's absolutely something you can do, but it's not necessary. Mustafa, should you do a second read for USMLE material? I mean, yeah, it depends what your scores are. So if you do the content and then you take the NBMEs and you're 68 plus, right? You can just sit. Ahmed Ali Khan, Mike, you've done CMS forms NBMEs twice. You only have NBME 14 remaining for 120. Your exam's in 4 weeks. What should you focus on? Well, what were your NBME scores like? You could move up your exam. I don't like that you finished all the NBME and CMS content and you're like so far away from your exam. I mean, you could bust out Mehlman Step 2 QBank, like you could do that. But in general, like I'd want to know what your scores are like. And like, you could honestly just move up your exam. If you're not happy with your scores, you've already done the CMS twice and the NBMEs twice, we clearly aren't going to use that material to get your scores higher, right? You've already done that stuff twice. So how are we going to get your scores higher? The answer would be, there's 2 things you can do. You either move up your exam to now. Okay, you sit like NBME 15 for 120, and then you move up your exam to now. Or if we want to remediate to get you a higher score, we can't use the CMS forms. You already did them twice. You already did the NBMEs twice. So you do Mehlman QBank. Step2.mehlmanmedical.com. It's only 2,500 questions. You could bust that out in like 3 weeks, honestly. Kakashi Helen. Hey, Mike, I'm done with 5 systems from the PDFs. Should I wait to take NBMEs until I complete all the PDFs? Or should you take NBMEs? I'd want to know when your exam is. I'd want to know how much QBank you've done. Because you want to have the NBMEs be the terminal aspect of your prep, where you do like the NBMEs in the final 3 weeks to a month, right? That's how we want you to end your prep. I'm assuming you're step 1. So 20 through 31 is what we need in the final like 3 weeks. So prior to that, you'd be doing QBank, step1.mehlmanmedical.com, and you'd be doing the PDFs alongside. It's more about, it's mandatory that you finish QBank that we have. The PDFs, people will sort of like choose certain ones they want to do. Like we recommend you do them all, yes, but it tends to be fairly common that someone will say like, yeah, I did like 5 of Mehlman's PDFs, or I should have done more, that type of thing. But it's not mandatory that it's like, you're not allowed to sit until you've done all the PDFs. Like it doesn't have to be like that. I'm not draconian when it comes to like, you have to do all the PDFs, even though we recommend it. But I am fairly draconian when it comes to that you should finish our QBank prior to doing the NBMEs. And you'll do the PDFs and YouTube questions alongside QBank. Rashad, what's the process of you making the audio questions? Do you just have a random concept in your head and build off it from there? There's not even a random concept in my head. Like I literally will just like open the interface on my computer and I just write the question without thinking. I don't think anymore with that. I've done like 1450 questions on the YouTube. Champion, any foods that you know that increase satiety? Well, the things that increase satiety, the yummy stuff, it's like we got to eat more sparingly, right? Like, for example, I really, really, really wanted Korean food today, but I had my dinner was 31 pieces of sushi. That was my dinner. I had 31 pieces of sushi. But I wanted like Korean fried chicken and stuff, but I didn't have it. I eat a lot of sushi. That's how I like I'll fill up on like a lot of sushi because it feels good, you know, because it's healthy at the end of the day. Like it's clean. It's clean. It's very clean. That's what I recommend. But you can get really good sushi cheap here in Japan. That's the benefit. That's the benefit, huh? But there's really good Korean food here as well. There's a Korean place like 10 minutes, not even like 5 minutes from where I am. It's fucking good stuff, Korean. Korean's like really good. I like Korean spicy chicken. That's really good stuff. That's really good stuff. Hello, Dr. Mike. I'm starting step 2 prep for 2 weeks now. Should you solve QBank random or subject specific? You finish peds, obs, gyne, shelves in uni? Well, if you're on rotations, then you're going to do QBank and subject specific. That makes sense, right? That makes sense. See what's going to happen, guys. And there's like a certain amount of redundancy because some of you have been in my live stream, some of you haven't, right? Right? So what's going to happen is within the next 3 months, we're working on shelf Qbanks right now. It's called the Shelf Series. So we're going to have 1,000+ questions for mini Qbanks for peds, obs, gyne, IM, FM, EM, surge, neuro, psych, and you can do those alongside the 2CK and step 3 Qbanks. So the difference between now and let's say 3 months from now is that in 3 months, the way you're going to prep for rotations is let's say you're on peds, you'll do Mehlman QBank to step2.mehlmanmedical.com, which you can do now. And you can do the peds subject specific questions, which I recommend to you now. And you can do our peds PDF. You can do our peds playlist on the YouTube. You'll do the peds CMS forms. That's not going to change. The difference is you'll also be able to do the 1,000+ question Mehlman peds QBank. That's in 3 months, within 3 months. For all the rotations, you'll be able to do that. And people will bitch about prices then as well. But at the same time, like, you know, not everyone can have a Ferrari. Aditya. Thanks, Aditya. Rana. What advice would you give it to someone who wants to start step 1? You're in 4th year. Well, 4th year in America means your final year. 4th year for some of you guys means you're like midway through med school. You're going to start with step1.mehlmanmedical.com. You're going to start with our 2,700 question QBank, and you're going to do the Mehlman PDFs in the evening. You can do Mehlman Anki. That's an alternative. PDFs are free. They're 11 out of 10 resource. The Anki's not free, but it'll help you save time. And some people really, really, really like that stuff. And you're going to do the YouTube questions we have here. You can do them subject specific by playlist. You can do them numerically. It doesn't really matter. That's how you're going to prepare for step 1. Emmanuel, you have 12 weeks to study for step 2. Should I go through both UWorld and your QBank? Yeah, so I'm starting to develop a good answer for this, right? Because people are asking me. So rather than me telling you, don't do UWorld, my response is just sort of becoming, do both. and see for yourself that ours is better. So don't have it be where Mehlman said you don't have to do UWorld, and then you can be like LMAO. That's hilarious. Fuck Mehlman. You should do UWorld. Okay, do both. Pay for both, and then you'll be like, fuck, Mehlman's is actually better. Holy shit. See for yourself, right? Juxtapose them. And you'd be like, fuck, Mehlman's is actually better. I mean, UWorld was like, it's like what, 2 decades? Right? But eventually something better comes along. So what happened with FA and the PDFs? Aham, how much of the concepts in pathology playlists come up in step 1? You're 600 out of 800 finished now of the videos. Everything comes up in step 1. I don't make stuff that doesn't show up in USMLE. Like, I'm not making random content for entertainment. Like, I'm making content that actually shows up in USMLE. So everything in my videos is on USMLE. Everything. Everything. To the point of redundancy, and that's intentional. Bashan, your NBME scores, NBME 18, you got a 40%. NBME 20, you got a 50%. NBME 21, 56%. NBME 22, 57.5. You need a 65 to pass. Yeah, you're not where you need to be. And I wouldn't waste any other NBMEs while your scores are this low. Don't waste NBMEs, guys, if you're not in the 60s at least. We said 20 through 24, free 120, then 25 through 31 in that order for step 1. I allow people to get 60 plus on NBMEs 20 and 21. Like my students, I say, you're allowed to get as low as a 60 on NBMEs 20 and 21. If you don't get a 60 on 20 and 21, you have to go back to QBank or just do a new QBank. If you get, let's say, a 60 on 20, we go to 21. Let's say you get a 61 on 21. Those are still fails, by the way, but I allow you to get as low as a 60. Then when we get to 22, you have to pass. So I say you have to get at least a 65. So if you do 22 and you get a 63, no, you're not allowed to go to NBME 23 now. Now you're going back to QBank. And I'll articulate this. I'll say, like, you want to just go through the NBMEs and not go to QBank, right? And the student's like, yeah, like I'd love to just get this over with as soon as possible. It's like, I agree with you. So don't score low then. So take NBME 22 and get like a 68. Great. Now you don't have to go back to QBank. Do 23, get us another 68. Great. You don't have to go back to QBank. But if you get like under 65 on 22 upward, it's like you're going back to QBank. Hamza, how important are risk factors? Someone just dropped a super comment. I'm going to answer that in a second. Risk factors are important, but they're like overblown. That's more like emotional type stuff that gets perpetuated. Like we have a risk factors PDF, we have a risk factors PDF, but that stuff's kind of like overblown. It's interesting, like the discussion points that go viral, like that's like overblown. Lovely Libra. Thank you for your super chat. I've seen you a lot around the Telegram group. Lovely Libra. I think I almost banned you at one point, actually. I'm just joking, lovely Libra. I'm just joking. How to stop feeling like you don't know anything during rotations as an old grad. Also, how do I study for step 3 in the fall of 2025? You're my favorite Aquarius, by the way. Thanks, lovely Libra. How to stop feeling like you don't know anything. That's kind of a normal feeling for many people. Like regardless of what you actually know, you can feel like you don't know anything. Like the subjectivity isn't what matters. It's the objectivity of your scores. You could take an NBME and get like a 71% and say you don't feel like you know anything. And I'm like, you got a 71. I know you say you're studying for step 3. But just recognize in the first place that the subjective aspect doesn't really matter. We just want you to objectively do the content and not worry about the numbers per se immediately. And then when we get to the NBMEs, then we can worry about the numbers. But to study for step 3, you're going to do step 3, lovely Libra. You're going to do step 3 Mehlmanmedical.com. You're going to do the 1,700 questions in our step 3 QBank. Okay. You can do the internal medicine PDF. That's sort of a generic, broad PDF. You can just do that in the evenings. Do like 10, 15, do like 15 pages per evening. You can knock out like 5, 10 YouTube clips per evening, or while you're at the gym, cooking, cleaning, right? Eating, knock out our clips. When you finish the 1,700 questions in step3.mehlmanmedical.com, when you finish the QBank, then you're going to redo all the CMS forms that you did for step 2. For step 3, yes. And you're going to do all the step 2 NBMEs again, yes, for step 3, 6 through 15. Free 120, fine, doesn't really matter, just like, but 6 through 15. And you're going to do ccscases.com while you're doing QBank. You're going to do those in the evening as well, like 2 to 3 per evening. Doesn't have to be a lot, but you got to have consistency there, and they're going to feel really weird, but you just knock them out, and then over time, you're fine. Jaguar says, you will say UWorld for step 3 is a complete waste of time and money. I did UWorld for step 3 back in 2015. I did that when I was in 4th year for fun. It wasn't fun though, but I did it for fun. I mean, the thing is, you have to do a QBank, right? So you can do step3.mehlmanmedical.com, and I say to those of you who insist that you want to do your other QBank as well, like you got Amboss or UWorld or whatever, do both. Do your UWorld and Mehlman, and then you'll say, fuck, Mehlman's is actually better. Let me scroll back up. I don't know where I was. I was like OCD about like trying to stay where I was in the chat. Or hey, I feel you don't do mnemonics, but if you do have a free PDF on mnemonics, can I find your mnemonics? I never use mnemonics. You're right. I have very, very, very few mnemonics, right? Like I think, or like acronyms. I don't use mnemonics. I use acronyms. Like everyone uses mud piles for high NGAT metabolic acidoses. Maybe the other useful acronym is like ACAL for Wernicke, like the animal, ACAL. Like ataxia, interrograde amnesia, confusion, ophthalmoplasia, Wernicke. That's a useful one. That's what you see in Wernicke encephalopathy, ACAL. And then you add confabulations, that becomes Wernicke-Korsakoff. So you add the retrograde in there, that becomes Wernicke-Korsakoff. But I don't really do mnemonics, you're right. Pop teens. Would you recommend doing questions for step 2 systemized versus doing them in, I recommend random mode, but if you're on rotations, you have to do them subject specific, don't you, for now? Khalid, hey, Dr. Mike, I scored 214 on UWSA 1 last week. What can I do to score 240? We want to see what your NBME scores are. Your NBMEs are what matter. So do 6 through 8 offline, do free 120, do 9 through 15, but we'll see, let's say 9, 10, 11 online for step 2. And if your scores still suck, then you're going to do Mehlman QBank, the 2450 questions. Then after you finish Mehlman QBank, step2.mehlmanmedical.com, then you can come back, you can redo 6 through 11 again, but we don't care about your scores because you just did them a month earlier. Then you're going to do 12 through 15, and you'll score higher at that point. That's how you'll get a 240 plus. Hisem, love your videos. Got a quick question about USMLE. If I'm scoring 55% and maybe 20, you've done UWorld, have nearly finished my Anki, which I do to improve my score. 55%, You've done URL. 55%, I said before that it's not a pass. You're not ready to go to the other NBMEs, but it's not cookie cutter for every student. I'd want to know when you sat NBME 20 when you got the 55. If you just sat NBME 20 and you got the 55, you have to do more QBank. If it was a while back, we could have you sit NBME 21. And if you, as I just articulated before, if you get under 60, you're not allowed to go to 22. If you get a 60 plus on 21, you're allowed to go to 22. Then you have to get a 65 plus on 22 upward. You have to. Do more on my Anki. The Anki should get you way higher than that. Way higher. I have anecdotes of like people this year who've been in like their CBSCs for their schools who are like 50s. And then they did the premium Anki like 12 hours a day and then they scored low 70s. Like I've got anecdotes like that. (033) Sanjay. 40 days to STEP. How should I space my NBMEs? You don't have to start NBMEs until maybe like 3 weeks out. But I'd want to know how shitty or good your scores are, like in general, from like QBank, like how strong or weak you are. Because if you're strong, you need less time to do the NBMEs. Like when I did my NBMEs, I would get like 8 wrong. So I'd be able to do an NBME and review it like that same day. But some of you get like 80 wrong. And so like, that'll take you like 2 days for some of you. So when we talk about spacing your NBMEs, I'm thinking in general, like the last 3 weeks, the last like 21 days NBMEs. If you're weak, maybe like the final 3.5 weeks to a month. And you could do like an NBME every other day with review. The 40 days, it's like just enough time to like do nothing for 10 days. Like, what are you going to do for 10 days? I mean, like you could look over my PDFs, you could jam the Anki, right? You could do a lot of the clips. You could do like lots of questions in QBank for like 10 days. But you're kind of like, if you want to start the NBMEs now, then you could just move up your test. You know, like you don't need 40 days. You could just start doing the NBMEs and we're like, wow, you're scoring 68 plus. That's good. And then you could just say, no, I don't need to sit in 40 days. I'm not going to sit end of September. I'm going to sit like mid-September. That's what you could do. Sanjay. You're also, Shazil, you're also 40 days out. But this is for step 2 now. And you've done the double pass, the CMS form's good. You finished QBank. You did NBME 678, old free 120. Starting NBMEs, free 120 now, question mark. If you've already done a double pass of all the CMS forms, you did 678, free 120, you can just do 9 through 15 and then sit, not in 40 days, but like now. Sit in like 10 days. And if you're not happy with your scores, if you do like 9, 10, 11, and you're not happy with your scores, okay? If you're not happy, I would say take a step back, and then you're going to spend 3 weeks doing Mehlmanmedical QBank, step2.mehlmanmedical.com. Then you come back, you redo 6 through 11, and then you do 12 through 15. Now, if you say, fuck you, I don't want to do that. Okay, don't increase your scores then. Then just do 12 through 15 after. When you do your 9 through 11, you're not happy with your scores. You say, fuck you, I don't want to do your QBank. Then don't. Do 12 through 15 and then sit. But if you want to increase your scores, if you're not happy, then I would recommend doing our QBank, step2.mehlmanmedical.com. Or hey, how will they test sciatica in the CBSC? That's more like step 2, actually. Like CBSC is more about like knowing if something is sciatica, like pain shooting down the leg, the radiculopathy. Step 2 is more like knowing that you don't x-ray for disc herniations can cause sciatica, but knowing that you don't x-ray, that almost always you do not x-ray. If patients have like certain red flag symptoms, right? If they have like loss of motor function or something, then we can think about x-ray. But they want no x-ray. And then they don't want bed rest also. Bed rest is wrong answer. It's exercise is tolerated, and NSAID/acetaminophen as tolerated. Pegasus, NBME 28, you got an 84. Your 3 weeks, your exams in 3 weeks. You use the PDS, UWorld only. I'm so bad at biostats. What is your advice? We've got a biostats PDF, and we have a biostats course. I recommend our biostats course because we've got modules and quizzes with all those modules, and we've got special questions where I've left double audios for all of them and written explanations. So for every question that I wrote for the biostats, there's a 3 to 5 minute audio, the way I do it for the YouTube. And then there's a sub 60-second cut to the chase audio. So there's double audios. If you do like my first 200 questions or so you'll notice like the first 200 questions are not on the YouTube, but they're on our website. You can find them on our website. And they're all double audios, because that's where the audio QBank got its name. It's because in the beginning it wasn't video. It was just literally audio. How to space step 2 NBMEs. I already talked about this sort of. It depends on how weak versus strong you are. If you're strong, you can review the whole thing in a day. If you're weak, you need 2 days. But 6 to 15, I mean, you're talking the final 2 to 2.5 weeks, really. And if you're not happy with your scores after you get to NBME 11, as I said, then we need to have you go back to QBank. Okay, champion. Okay, champion. Adesh. I haven't done much of UWorld. You did 20%. Anki has gotten you to 79 to 80%, and maybe 29 to 30. I'm thinking of just continuing Anki and doing your PDS. Is that good, or do I need to do QBanks? Exam is the 8th. If you're scoring 79 to 80% on the NBMEs, just do the other NBMEs right now. Just do the other NBMEs and keep doing the Anki. That's all you gotta do. Charubala. What is that nonsense, Charubala? Like, what occurred in your mind that made you say those 3 cuck resources? Like, what occurred? Whom are you listening to? Like, what poor influences do you listen to? Like, whom are you listening to? Whom are you surrounded by? That is your perspective on USMLE prep. You need to surround yourself with better people. Terrible prep. Charabala. Terrible prep. Terrible. Have you done Mehlman content? Right? That's how you get your scores up the most. I was saying this in yesterday's live stream. Like, I walk a tightrope, okay? Because, it's like, Mehlman, you're an asshole for pushing your own content. But at the same time, it's like, well, I have a responsibility to tell you how to get the highest score possible in the least amount of time. And that entails actually like doing my content. So what am I supposed to do? Lie and say like, don't do our content, get shittier scores doing something else, right? So when I push our content, you can say I'm an asshole for pushing my content. But I have a responsibility to get your scores up as much as possible. When it's the free PDFs, people are like, you're amazing. But when it's paid, okay, that's when you venture into the territory of like, you're an asshole. I mean, you got to pay for a Ferrari, don't you? Devansh. What do I emphasize content review for questions for step 1? ST, best Anki to use. Got through first aid in 60% QBank through PDS. Fools, PIT 1209, self-assessments. We don't have self-assessments yet. You don't have to worry about QBank self-assessments at the moment. You can just do NBMEs. Sheila Daza. Hey, Mike, you're an IMG from Columbia. You got step one. You have a step one fail before you found me. You did NBMEs 20 through 31. I want to take the test again. What other assessments can I take to see if I'm ready? You are my idol, by the way. Thanks, Sheila. You did NBMEs 20 through 31. Well, you got 19 and earlier. You got NBMEs 19 and earlier. You're going to have to do those. But I'd want to know, like, in general, like in your situation, what would happen is I would meet with you. I would be able to assess immediately where you're at. I could ask someone questions and determine like plus or minus 2%, like where you're at. And I would tell you if you're scoring well, you could do 19 and earlier and just sort of build our confidence back up where it's like, wow, we're getting 68 plus on 19 and earlier, 17, 18, 19, let's say. I take it it's not what your situation is. Okay, maybe you're in the 50s or something. But what you're going to have to do is basically you're going to do our QBank, step1.mehlmanmedical.com. But then when you come out of QBank, like as I said, you're going to have to do earlier NBMEs, 19 and earlier. Okay? Deek and Ball. W in the Mehlman chat. Hamid. New Derma / MSK PDF. They're good PDFs. The PDFs are mature. Like we don't have to really touch those for now. We'd rather focus on like building other stuff. We'd rather focus more on like enhancing QBank more, doing other stuff. The PDFs are fine. 11 out of 10. Tell me a better fucking resource for derm. No, there is none. Like our PDF for derm is fucking ace. The Honored One, good to see you again. Doha. NBME 2770, that's good. NBME 65, well, I don't think that's what you meant to write, but as we said, 65 is a pass, so you need higher than that. Adelay, thanks for being a member. I know you're a member because your name's in green. Everyone else's is gray. What do you suggest to increase the true rate greater than 70% to 80%? Are you talking about your scores? What are you asking right now? What are you asking right now, Adelay? Champion. Why do med schools teach nonsense? Like most of what I know is from your PDFs and QBank. Like here in India, they emphasize reading textbooks, LOL. Yeah, well, depends what your like goals are. Because the goals in the United States, it's like doing well in the licensing exam, right? That's like the goal. So when med schools don't help you with the licensing exam, when they don't know what they're doing, when they have you read like nonsense, then that's how you realize med schools suck. If you remove the licensing exams and like the metric was just like how you do in your med school exams, nothing else, like you wouldn't know how good or shitty your med school is. But it's like, yes, you're starting to see that like universities are ostensible. Like they're not actually like, they're just businesses. That's all they are. I don't need to go on like a whole seminar about it, but like it's the same thing with like undergrad universities, right? Like people don't need degrees to get jobs now. Like you can just learn everything on YouTube. You could self-study everything, make content. Like you don't need a university degree. It's like you don't need a med school degree. Like the only utility of med school is basically a formal permission / screening structure where you can get patient interaction. That is the utility of med school. It's where you get like clinical coaching, like they build maybe your ethics, like the patient interaction, all that stuff. Like that is med school. That is like the benefit of med school. But the actual education, You could sit in an apartment in Iceland, never go into med school, just do QBank and like our PDFs and stuff, and you'll score way better than if you physically walk into like the physical like Ivy League school somewhere. You will not learn. I mean, what are you encountering there? Whom are you encountering? Who is going to be like who's the teacher and what are they good at? Like, what are they teaching? My teaching is better than anything you would get at like an Ivy League school. And I do get students, like I tutor some students who are at like Ivy League schools. Maz, how about a QBank giveaway? Not yet. Not yet. That's a big ask. That's a big ask. And that would anger a lot of people, and it's not ethical because there's a lot of people who've paid for the QBanks. Doha. Doha, we said you got to get 3 NBME 68 plus. That's what we want, Doha. That's what we want. Guys, I'm going to cut this because it's been an hour. Thanks, Jordan. Let me just see. Let me scroll down. You're only allowed to comment if you're an old subscriber. So there's a good number of you here who commented. The wild, wild west days are over where you used to just come in free swinging, be able to like comment. Because you get a lot of trolls, that's why. When you have like no subscribers, then you want like every little comment. But then like over time, you don't need like trolls. Guaranteed there's some trolls who are like, fuck, I can't comment. Fuck, I'm not a subscriber. I wasn't a subscriber from before. I can't comment. Fuck, I can't like troll Mehlman's fucking, it's like, yep, you gotta come up with better things to do. J-Rod, you started psych rotation today. Should you grind UWorld or start with high yield PDF? Neither, J-Rod. Neither, J-Rod. You can do like the PDF, yes, but I say neither because like you've got step2.mehlmanmedical.com. You've got our QBank now, J-Rod. So you could do like psych subject specific from our QBank because you'd have to do that subject specific anyway. Do that with the PDF. J-Rod. Amin. Just read your comment. Thanks, Amin. That guy, does scoring 75 to 80% in step 1 NBMEs lead to better performance in step 2? Absolutely. Absolutely. The best prep for step 2 is good step 1 prep. That's an important thing. That's the best prep for step 2 is solid step 1 prep. It's never a waste. Caesar, is it better to pay for the test as a form of pressure and commitment, or do you think it's better to buy it when you feel ready? That's a good question. I recommend setting your step 1 date so that you can work toward that as a deadline. Correct. I think that's good. I don't think we should just like dither in thin air and like not know when you're sitting. You need a deadline. That's a good question. Someone dropped a super comment. Member. Thank you, Roger Moore. Oh, Roger Moore, you became a member. Thank you, Roger Moore. Thank you, Roger Moore. Carlos, bro, your videos are so fun to watch as a pre-med. Gets me hyped. That's cool, Carlos. Carlos Andres Hernandez Ramos. That's quite an extravagant name there. Carlos. Maz 29197. Japan is great. Samir, can you please make a 9-month length for your step 1 QBank? You were the one who sent that. I think I saw that email and I ignored it. Or maybe you DM'd me. I don't remember exactly, but maybe there was an interaction there, and I told you like no. That's a very odd like request. It's not like UWorld has a 9-month plan. Can you not just like get the year, or just do 6 months? Like, why must it be a 9-month step 1 Qbank subscription? You say you'll buy it right now. I mean, come on, Samir. Is like $20 like a big deal to you? To just go to the extra year or something? Or go from 6 months to a year? Marvelous. How can I schedule a call consult to set up an ideal schedule plan based on any circumstance? That's a funny question, because if you see my rates, you're not going to be asking that question. It costs more to meet with me for a half an hour on Zoom than it costs for 6 months of our QA right now. That's not an ego thing, it's demand. Like, people want access to me. I mean, it's the best fucking advice. Like, imagine that one-on-one. But it's like, the other thing is like, I don't have fucking time. So when someone buys like time with me, I get pissed off. I'm serious. Like, it's a very weird thing. Because it's like, it's a chunk of change, but at the same time, like, I don't want to fucking meet this person. I don't have time. Don't buy time with me. Don't, please, don't. I don't have time. Tamur, what is the difference between step 2, CK IMED questions versus IMED? I haven't heard that. Doesn't have relevance as far as I'm aware. Jaguar, you failed by 5 points. Can our QBank for step 3 boost your score 15+? I mean, look, man, it's arbitrary in terms of like, we don't know your exact situation. Can we boost your score? The answer is yes. We don't know your exact situation. 1,700 questions, step 3 Qbank. Samson, thanks. God sent Angel Mike, thank you so much. Your videos have been giving me great review of concepts, understanding. I've struggled a lot for years. Finally got a pass in step 1 just by watching videos. Guys, I gotta end this live stream. I'll answer one more question. Shit, it's a lot here, huh? Roger Moore. Came across your channel recently. What a gem. Quick question. My school is making it mandatory for us to take a 3-month CAP live session prior to writing step 1. It's a terrible idea. Terrible idea. Amazing. It's incredible. It's incredible. Like, it's incredible. The ignorance of like they would need me to consult, basically. You know, they would need me to consult. Like, they would need to have me sit down in their conference room with a bunch of these people in suits, and I would tell them how to run their med school. And they would be like, really? We're not. And I'd be like, really? And they'd be like, you'd have the dean be like, LOL, okay. Like, that's what would happen. Be like, take this fucking dude from East Asia who's controversial, and fucking, I would go into their like conference room and I would tell them how to run their med school, and their students would score higher. And like what you just mentioned, as far as having to do like that 3-month CAP live session, laughable. See, because a decision like that is an ostensible one. What it does is it basically is just, it absolves themselves of responsibility. And they just say, we're putting students through this formal structure. It allows us some equanimity to say we're putting students through this formal structure of doing this CAP live session for 3 months. But Kaplan's out of touch. Kaplan's atavistic. They're from another, or anachronistic. They're from another time. Laughable. Benjamin, I've been here for an hour. I got stuff to do. It's 2:15 a.m. I got to do QBank stuff. I'm going to do QBank stuff till like 5 a.m. That's what I got to do. Nuriza, just DM me that, and then we can troubleshoot that. Because if you have a problem with Anki importing, what you can do is ask Nuriza, ask ChatGPT. Literally, what you're going to do, whatever error message comes up, screenshot it, drag it into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT will be like, "This is your problem. You're clicking on this instead of this," and it helps it 100. It solves it 100% of the time. Anytime someone has an importing issue or some problem opening Anki, which is like 1 out of every 70 people or something, I just say like, fucking ask ChatGPT, screen, and then it works 100% of the time. It solves it. It's something you're clicking on or one of your settings. Like it's always something like that. Andrea, thanks. Thank you, Andrea, for becoming a member. Thank you, Andrea. All right, guys, I'll do more of these.